Hello and welcome to Fin Business. Today we are in conversation with ISME ACE, which is India's largest fintech accelerator. Today we'll try to understand how ISME ACE as an accelerator working and driving the growth of fintechs in India. We have with us Gaurav Tiwari, who's the CIO of ISME ACE. Gaurav, thank you so much for joining us and welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Great. To start with, we can see a lot of energy in fintech space in India right now. You have received more than 500 applications for the fintech. How has been your experience? How was the process to scrutinize only few fintechs out of those 500?
We received 546 applications across 23 countries. So yes, the interest had been there to apply to the accelerator, and maybe there are few success stories. If you look west, Y Combinator is there, 500 startup is there. So we were trying to model ourselves on those lines and were trying to create an ecosystem which can help the fintech startups. So we received those applications, we reviewed them. So there was a first level scrutiny where we found out which are relevant, which are applicable to the current market practice, which are scalable, what is the team dynamics. Eventually we landed with 27 startups. These 27 startups were put in front of our selection committee. Finally, we ended up investing in 6 startups. So the 6 startups are the ones who we will work with. We would be putting in some money in the startups for the period they would be working with us, and we will also help them grow in terms of business, also in terms of valuation, as well as in terms of the next round of funding that might be required for them to grow.
So as an accelerator, when you chose these 6 fintechs, what is the initial capital or the seed capital that you have infused in these fintechs? What kind of returns, what kind of profitability, and do you see in these fintechs?
We have invested somewhere between 100,000 to 200,000 USD. So across these 6 startups, we have invested almost $1 million. And this you can put us somewhere in the seed stage for a startup. Absolutely. So we are, in many cases, we are either the first investor or the second investor after some of the startups have raised some angel round. There is excitement. We have selected these startups with the hopes that they will grow and they will make us also some returns. We see that we will have to work with them and we will have to invest more into them in terms of our efforts on helping them grow and helping them raise more funds. And we don't want to exit in a hurry. We would wait and see, and obviously finally the decision on when to exit and where to exit will depend on case to case. But we see them making us good returns considering the way India yet lacks a lot of penetration in terms of financial services, and it's a big market for many players to play with.
And what kind of returns do you expect?
It's a difficult question. So we are not here for actually only returns. We are not that is not the only criteria. We are also here to contribute. But in terms of returns, yeah, we would be, so since we are focusing on mostly B2B, there are few B2C investments we have made, but B2B investments, we don't see our money going waste.
I have a very interesting question for you. When many banks realize that digital is the future and they're investing a lot on digital, they're adopting few fintechs. How accelerator is going to be different from them?
When an organization creates its own accelerator or its own model, so nowadays there is a trend of having a chief digital officer.
Yes.
That trend has actually come from the need where most of the startups or most of the fintechs did not even know who to approach to in an organization. So they would somewhere oscillate between the tech team or the product team or the business team, and the decision making process is much longer. Yes. So at least the trend is there to at least set up a team or a dedicated person or a team responsible for leading these kind of conversations to help fintechs and banks collaborate with each other. A chief digital officer of a particular organization will focus only on the use cases which are relevant to that organization. While as an accelerator, we are not bound by that use case restriction. So we are more open. We are having a wider range of scope. So we work with investment companies, investment tech companies, we work with insure tech, we would work with payments, we would work with broking, we would work with lenders. So we are not bound by a particular use case or a particular association in terms of the business case when we are accelerating or selecting any startup.
So as an accelerator now, when you're taking care of these fintechs and you're taking them to the different banks, and see the potential opportunities for them where your fintechs can serve, what are the major challenges? What are the major drawbacks that you see in terms of partnership, in terms of integration with banks?
So major challenges, I would suggest, first I have already mentioned that they are not able to find the right person or the right team to engage with. So that is where we also help them, because we have experience in working with banks and big organizations. We have created a network of our own, so we would be able to connect the startups to the right person in terms of getting the conversation going. Once the conversation starts, the next challenge happens in integrating with bank systems. That is the next step. After you agree to engage with the bank, that doesn't mean that you have engaged with the bank. You have to actually integrate with the systems, call their APIs or whatever is the manner of engagement. Now there, most of the startups struggle because most of the big organizations have their own security standards, their own policies, their own information security, their own firewall strategy and all those things. Sometimes startups are aware of this, most of the time they don't. So most of the times once they get into engagement, they interact with the vendor onboarding team and then they realize they have to follow these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps before they can touch any of the bank systems. We would be able to help the startups in terms of what kind of security audits they need to concern, what kind of security standards they need to follow. If they are into processing card transaction, they should be PCI DSS compliant. So all those things we will be able to help the startup.
Those intelligent suggestions offering them.
Yeah, and one more point is most of the startups, when they engage with the big organization, those big organizations don't want to change.
Right.
So startups have to adopt to what they are having. So in terms of, let's say there is a bank which is offering APIs to connect with bank systems, the startup has to follow what APIs are available.
Right.
So when you are talking to bank 1, you are following one standard, and the moment you talk to bank 2, you might land with another standard. Right. So that is a struggle.
So why specifically did you choose B2B? Is it that the focus has been shifting from B2C to B2B?
So we have not specifically chosen B2B per se. We are focusing on B2B and not neglecting B2C as well. So we are investing in B2C also. Now coming to B2B part, we are seeing that a lot of action is happening where these big organizations and the fintechs are ready to collaborate and ready to work with each other rather than work against each other.
True. But again, my particular question is this, that are we done with B2C now and focusing more on B2B? Because there are a lot of fintechs specifically for the B2C. If you look at payment, it's crowded. Now again, the suddenly focus is on lending. So is that the reason that many accelerators specifically focusing on B2B?
No, I wouldn't say that we are done with B2C, but the chances of success are, higher when you are in B2B space, because there you can find a customer who is ready to pay for your services. In B2C, it's very difficult to find the customer to pay for your services. So as a business model, it becomes easier to implement when you have somebody already paying for your services and contributing to your revenue, rather than in B2C space where if you look at it, a lot of money has been pumped in and none of these startups are actually making profits. And in fact, they are making huge losses by way of giving freebies. So imagine a scenario when you have to pay your customer to use your services. That is not the right business model.
Right.
So that is why B2B seems to be a more successful option. But if you want to see 500x returns, I think B2C would be the area which can give you those kind of return, provided one of the 500 succeeds. So it all evens out.
Okay, so return wise B2C is more profitable, and sustainable wise B2B is more interesting. That's what you want.
In B2C, you have to first burn a lot of money to start seeing earnings. In B2B, you can start on day zero you can find a customer who wants to pay for your services, and you can run a sustainable business without worrying about where the next salary check would come from.
So with whatever you said, I have a very immediate and a very interesting question. Does that mean that going ahead there will be a consolidation in the market? Does that mean that most of the fintechs will close down their shops because they are actually surviving on the freebies? And like you said, acquisition of customer is one thing, but obviously the another company will come into the market tomorrow. They will also follow the same thing, and XYZ company will vanish.
So consolidation is bound to happen. And if you look at the trend, I mean, in taxi aggregators, today we have Ola and Uber. Yes. There were others in the process, but eventually they have all folded between the two of them. I mean, Ola had acquired taxi for sure. Eventually, if you look at e-commerce space, Myntra, Jabong, all of them folded into Flipkart. Right. So today we have only two big players. I mean, Snapdeal is there, but it's neither here nor there. Right. So Flipkart and Amazon are leading the show. So consolidation is bound to happen, because in the end, in this kind of business, you only have a winner. Right. There are no losers, and there are there is no second place or third place. Right. You either take everything or you have nothing. Even if you look at Facebook, what is the second biggest social media network? Right. You don't know. Yes. Right? If you look at the internet search, which is the second biggest search engine after Google, yes. You don't know. Yes. So it is bound to happen. So most of the businesses will start, because the market is big, they will do well, but one person or one startup will do better than the others. And eventually all of them will fold into that one or two, whichever lead the race at that point in time.
So like you mentioned earlier that you had 500 plus applications and you chose only 6. Going ahead, will you focus on only B2B? How many numbers, of fintechs will you adopt in your next phase?
We have no intention of focusing only for B2B. We would continue to look for innovative ideas on B2C as well. And in terms of number of investments or number of applications, we actually are looking at making close to 100 investments in next 3 to 4 years.
Okay, and how much that would be the exact number in terms of 100 investments, and also how much returns do you expect? What are the duration? What is the timeline that you expect for that returns?
So we would be deploying this in next 3 to 4 years. So the number is around 100 crore across 100 startups, because that is where our ticket size is somewhere between 100 to 200,000 USD. And the returns we would start seeing some returns probably from 5th to 7th year onwards.
Gaurav, those were really great insights. Thank you so much for talking to Fin Business. Thank you so much for watching.